Hey, everybody, welcome. I'm so excited to be here today and right on time. Yay. My name is Brenda B. Bailey, and you are joining myself and Debra Valentina on the Theta Healing Power Hour. So, welcome. So, as y'all know, our subject here is going to be the work that we're going to get to on the end here is the critical shifts to make and to move beyond chaos and create freedom and joy in your life. So I have the pleasure of having Debra with us. So Debra Valentina is the founder of Creativing. Oh, I hope I said that right. Anyway, she may have to correct me, but is a holistic intuitive coach for female executives and entrepreneurs, as well as an inspirational speaker and author. Her memoir, Beyond Chaos, Journey to Freedom and Joy, was published in March of 2020. So congratulations, Debra.
Thank you so much.
One of her greatest delights is to empower women to get beyond their doubts and fears in order to fully express their unique talents and experience freedom and joy. So, Debra, please correct me and say the name again.
So it's Creativing, and it is, I'd like to explain Creativing. It's a combination of creative living, and my guidance or my intuition gave me that name, and I said, really? And it's a made up word, and I heard, yes, you can make up anything you want. So Creativing it is.
But I also want people, not that it means anything, right? But I think it has validation here. How long you been doing this, Debra?
I have actually been coaching for over 30 years. 34 years actually. And so on April 23rd, it was the beginning of my 35th year in business and coaching.
So she knows a little something. Pay attention, folks. Just saying. Pay attention. I'm not saying, now, again, we're not saying that time has anything to do with anything, but in this case it does. Because I also think that people, again, we were just talking about doing technical things. So maybe some people who haven't been doing it as long, or somebody that's younger, I'm going to say they may be an expert in that. But when it comes to life and business, got to kind of pay attention to the people who are still doing it. Because as I say this many times, once, I'm into my 20, I'm pushing into my 29th year here. We've been through a recession or two, just saying. Okay. And it is something as an entrepreneur that, will happen. It's going to happen. You have election years, you have all sorts of things. And so we knew a recession was coming. It's just that it got coupled with COVID-19, which made it different, but not the same. So when you can have somebody that's been doing it for as long as Debra has, that's a lot to say, okay, let me pay attention because, she's been around the block, said in a sweet way, okay? Meant in a good way. Meant in a good way, right?
Thank you. I have been around the block many times, so thank you for that. For putting a positive spin on it, for sure.
So I'm in my readers club, we're doing Outwitting the Devil, and one of the things that is addressed is that not always with what is it? Not always with wisdom comes knowledge, or something like that. And I was just like, oh, isn't that true? But we're going to say in this case it does. And, speaking of what else has been going on in the world, Debra is going to tell us about moving beyond chaos and what that means to her. So what does that mean to you, Debra?
Okay, well, I'd love to talk about that. So as I describe in my newly released memoir that you introduced me with, Beyond Chaos, I grew up in a really chaotic and highly dysfunctional household. And as I observed this chaos from a very early age, unfortunately, I remember vowing to myself to get beyond this craziness. That's what I called it, this craziness, and to do big things in my life. And so I have done this, fast forward to all these years of experience, I've done this by doing lots of personal development work and helping others actually through my coaching. So I learn just as I learn just tons from my clients as they are empowered and learn from me. So yeah, that's what I would say about just, the overview of getting beyond chaos.
Well, and I think that that's the thing that's important for people, here, I'm highlighting and putting, like exclamation points and everything else, is that, I mean, show me somebody that's had a perfect childhood or that was raised like in a, like functional home, and we're all still looking, right? So it's what we do, and these are all choices that we make. Like, what is your story? And Deborah just said something that was really amazing, and the whole fact that she was like, I made a decision, I made a choice, I'm going to do this differently. Sometimes it's easier, sometimes it's, it takes a little while, but for sure. And that's why she gets to write a book about it, right?
And I would completely go and underscore the fact that it was a choice, and it's an ongoing choice to really see the silver lining in things, learn from the situations, learn from the challenges, and just you were talking about this time, and it's hard not to talk about this time because it's so in our face. But I call this time our transformational time. And so I have really used it to do more introspection, to tweak both my personal and business life in terms of what's working and what's not working. And frankly, I see it as a luxury of time. And I know my situation is slightly different from those who have, lots of kids running around and you're trying to do work. I live by myself. And so I have a lot of, speaking of freedom and joy, I have a lot of freedom to do what I want. So I understand, there's some differences, but I have really chosen to go ahead and use this as a luxury of time.
And that is truly what time is. And it's really funny because right before we came in, we were talking about being busy. And tell me again what you said instead, because I think this is great too, right? So again, we get to have conversations with people, and it's like, that was a gem, let me write that down. I said, I've been really busy, and she said, I like to call it,
yes, full and rich. Yeah. So I have a full and rich life. I have full and rich days. And I never, ever use the word busy just because it gets me frenetic. And I feel like my energy has to do something else. And with rich and full, there's almost an exhale about it. So it's just like,
agreed. Agreed.
just go on, one thing at a time. Next.
We're all like, tell us more, Deborah. But I'm telling you, like, if that is like, again, I'm gonna be like, highlight, exclamation point, drop the mic. It goes downhill from there, folks. I mean, like, that is like amazing. I'm write it down, rich and full. Tell us more, right? Like, it's like, so listen, because she's going to tell us more here. So what were there some qualities that you used to move beyond, right? Because so we all want to move beyond the chaos. We all want to move towards freedom and joy. So what qualities did you use, Debra?
Well, I had a number of them, but three of the most significant, I would say, is curiosity, developing and having a sense of humor, and trusting in myself and my intuition. So I would say they're probably my three top. I have cultivated them from a very young age. It was almost, these things were survival mechanisms, actually. And they served me well then, and they continue to serve me well.
And I think that that's really good too, to say we have these experiences in our lives, and how can we overcome them? Because my big thing is, one of the words that I, would love, trying is one word that I always say, completely erase that from your vocabulary. The second one is surviving. So I survived this. It's no, you overcome it. It's because overcoming means it's in the past. Surviving means you're still in it. Yeah. So, I think that, when we're looking at qualities, when we're looking at reframing, when we're looking, it's all of these different things, like, what am I saying? What am I thinking? What am I putting out into the universe so that it can come back to me?
I love that. Well, I'd love to dive deeper into these three qualities.
Yes.
That was because I'd love to.
I was going to ask you to. Debra's reading my mind right now. Go on, Debra.
Well, I'd love to dive deeper into them, and also give at least one tool to the audience for each
Perfect.
one, because it really has, all of them have saved my life. But with curiosity, I find that to be such a powerful quality. And one of the reasons why is that curiosity helps to avert really judging others or yourself. And, we're all judgment machines. Our little left brains are judgment machines. And so if you're curious, that seems to bypass that machine. And so a tool that I would suggest that I use all the time, daily probably, is to ask neutral, open-ended questions when you don't understand the behavior of others, or you start to judge the behavior of others, or your own. So I use questions like, please tell me more about that. Or if it's with yourself, I wonder why I behaved in that way. And I want to tell you, when you're curious, first of all, I believe that your knowingness will give you the answer. Your higher self or your knowingness will give you the answer if you genuinely want to know the answer. And so curiosity is, a very well developed, and I'm curious about everything. There's a lot to be curious about these these days, because I could be judging lots of things, but I'm trying to just be curious about what's going on in someone's mind that would have them behave that way. So the second, which actually kind of goes right along with it, is a sense of humor. So I'm clear that my sense of humor literally saved my life while I was growing up. And what I mean by that is I would use it to break the tension in what was potentially a volatile or explosive situation. And I would just, say something that would break the spell, so to speak. And it was using and developing my sense of humor. So after years of practice, I'm almost always able to see either the humor or the absurdity in a situation, because sometimes it is just absurd. So this sense of humor is extremely useful in both my professional and personal life. So a tool that I would suggest is to just start challenging yourself to see the humor or absurdity, either one, in circumstances that you wouldn't normally see as humorous. It does break the spell. And then the third, and I know I'm going on and on, but I'm so excited about these.
No, well, no, you're not going on and on. We're listening. We're like this. Yes. Tell us more, Debra.
Is the trusting in yourself and your intuition, and this is actually my favorite of the three. So I believe that trusting in yourself and your intuition is really imperative in having a joyful life, which is what we're talking about and what the subject is. So my motto or mantra, if you will, is no second guessing or doubting. Now, your decisions or your choices. And I find this is easier said than done. Particularly with women, I must say, and that's who I work with exclusively, because I have found that doubt is rampant even in the most successful women. And so how I overcame my own version of this doubt was to develop my intuition. So I have been intentionally and actively developing my intuition for over 30 years. So lots and lots of practice. And so the tool that I would suggest is to practice listening to that still small voice. And everyone knows that has heard at least once or many times that still small voice in your head that is often overshadows that louder, more insistent monkey mind. And so as I have found, as you listen more and more to its guidance, it actually will get louder. And so here's what I know, if I'm listening to my intuition / guidance, it's 100% accurate. It's when I don't listen to it that I call it getting into deep doo-doo. So listening to it, it overshadows really the doubts and the fears, because I know I'm listening to something that's true. So
absolutely. And and again, if you are loving what you're hearing, please share it. Please tag people that you're like, oh, they need to hear this, in the comments below. It's just helpful. Again, we're hearing some great things that we all need to hear right now. Because what Debra's talking about with, the questions, right? It's called inquiry. It's a very Eastern philosophy, right? Going in that inquiry. What is going on? What is my piece in this? How is this happening? How is this unfolding in my life? Sense of humor and laughing. That's the thing. Again, don't be so serious, right? Like when we're looking into what's going on here and how can we, again, sometimes we can use humor that will cause us not to take anything seriously or not to be present. But again, it's working with it and seeing how it works with us. And in that intuition, for most of us, as we're beginning that journey, it is that quiet little voice on the things that are not such a big deal that allows us to start building it into the things that are a big deal. I think for Debra and I have both been on these journeys for, a few years. And, for me, I was laughing because I use it like all the time on the big stuff and for most of the little stuff. And as I say, when I heard like buy toilet paper in February, extra toilet paper, and went, I don't want to be storing any toilet paper as we're getting to need. Yeah. I was like, when a month later, when I was standing in line at 7:00 in the morning at the grocery store, I was like, yeah, every time Brenda listened to it, every time.
Yeah, I love what you're saying, because I know that a number of my clients say, well, I don't want to use it on the small stuff because I'm saving it up for the big stuff. And I'm like, no, you don't understand. Your intuition, your guidance wants to guide you all the time. It doesn't matter whether it's small or it's big. So, I use it all the time. I'm like, this is, this is so funny. I use it when I go to DSW and I'm want to buy a particular pair of shoes, and I go, okay, this store is huge. I've got 10 minutes. Just tell me where to find these shoes, and I will hear the aisle between 9 and 9.5, and look on the left and down below. And I do that, and there are my shoes. And so I want to say that as you practice, because I don't want everyone to think that it's going to be so specific so early on.
Right.
But my intuition, trust, and guidance, it's a connection and a trust I've built over 35 years. And so it's like, okay, we're just going to give her the full scoop right now because we know she's going to listen.
Right.
And then I go and I find my shoes. It's a small example, but it sure makes life easier. Let me tell you.
And and that's the thing. And like what you're saying, like with your clients, it's like, it's a muscle, right? You have to strengthen it, you have to use it, and you have to use it always for the big and the small. And also the deal is that the more you use it, the more you get confirmation and validation of why you want to use it, right? Because
Exactly.
in the case of the toilet paper story, right, it's like, once again, just listen and don't question. And that's, I think that's a big thing, as well, as when we're looking, this is not just about us. This is also about our relationship with whoever our higher power is, whether that be the universe, whether it be, are we looking for signs? I feel like, when we were talking about being in quarantine, I know for myself, I am living a rich and full business and life. See, I'm a quick learner here.
You are so quick.
And the thing is that for some people, they're not. They're having some time to step back, and it's a beautiful time to have awarenesses. This is where we learn. And again, for a lot of us who have rich and full lives and businesses, we have to schedule that time in. We have to have a practice of it so that we can, because when we do that, that's when we get to get our big gifts from and I don't want to say big, but just our gifts of our intuition, of our inner voice, of our knowing, whatever you want to call it. But it all has to do with faith as well. So when you've been doing it a while, like Debra and I, the cool thing is that, unless it has to do with toilet paper, we get to just go, got it.
Yes.
And maybe it may, like what I'm saying and what I'm doing may not make sense to me, or it may not appear like how I want it. But that's doing this long enough, I trust it. And so that's possible for anybody. And, when we were talking about doubt, I find that doubt gets a bad rap. And I say that because doubt is not intended to cause fear. Doubt is intended to, again, make us aware that maybe we ought to have a plan B, just in case. Or another way to look at it, not to make us like, but to say, okay, is there something I need to pay attention to? Or is this me going into my fear? And when you can, look at doubt and embrace doubt, because again, when we clear enough things, when we're in our knowing, doubt serves us. But if we constantly are, being in the chaos, right? We're always moving, they always say we either move towards love or away from fear type thing. It's, we want to be moving towards freedom and joy. And how can we create that in our lives?
Yeah. So I wanted to follow up on something that you just said about taking time to connect and to be with the universe or spirit or God or your intuition or,
Whatever you want to call it.
a ton of names, is that I have been meditating for over 45 years. And I have this beautiful practice, which I'm going to share with the audience now, that I do that has really helped with this rich and busy life and business, is that I ask, what are the top 3 things to do today after my meditation? And I'm plugged in and connected, and I will get those top 3 things in order of how to do them. And I do those because they are accurate and they will move me forward to all of my goals and intentions. And everything else I call frosting on the cake. So I do those 3 things, and I may have done them by 10 o'clock in the morning, and then I am ready to do all the frosting. So I would suggest that that is a really great practice, and it helps to develop the connection, and it's also really useful because people get all crazed about and overwhelmed with their to-do lists, and practically every woman I've worked with over the last 34 years it has some craziness around their to-do list. Because again, these are high achieving female executives and entrepreneurs who want to get a lot done. And so that is the first thing that I really suggest that they do with their master list, which I call a master joyful be-do list, rather than a to-do list, because that's also something that helps reframe it.
Say that again, Debra.
Yeah, it's a master joyful be/do list. And so it's not just a to-do list, it may be to remember to be kind to everyone that you encounter. And that's the
including yourself. I think that's a big thing, is everybody always forgets themselves. So when you write down stuff like that, you always have to include yourself.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Couldn't agree more.
And I feel like, these are things like what is, when we talk about meditation and we're talking to Debra and she's like saying, this is what I do. I think that it's like, do it where you can, fit it into your life. I know I get my most profound things like taking a shower, walking my dog, going for a drive. But it's some type of practice that I know I am intentionally putting it in and doing it. And also too, just I'll plug it in right here because it's perfect. I have I offer an MP3 that I call it Shatter Your Income Ceiling. It's an abundance MP3, but it can be your intention in any way. And it's for 1 minute, and it puts you into a theta brainwave. And I often encourage people to be intentional when they're doing it. Do it for 1 minute, first thing in the morning, last thing in the evening, like what Debra's talking about. I'm starting off my day in this way.
Yeah.
And if you'll do that, you'll see a huge difference in what you do. Yes. And how you are and how things unfold for you and what comes to you in your life. Because what we're thinking, that monkey mind, is like, it's blocking everything. So we've got to clear it so that, and I often say, during those intuitive, like what she's talking about as far as like the top 3 things, that's like time management 101, but done with a divine purpose, done in a divine way. Because I think what happens for most people, we live in this overwhelm, which is what causes the chaos. And, we have our to-do list. We'll call it the to-do list. But if you break it down and say, okay, this is what I need to do overall, but what are the top 3 things? Everybody can manage top 3 things. And then we put that on our joyful master B list. instead of our to-do list. And that just makes it all different.
Yes, I thank you for that beautiful summary. And I wanted to say, you're right about meditation. Now, I do meditate, and I have a variety of ways to do that, including as simple as watching my and listening to my breath. But not everyone can sit still, and I totally get it. So I call it for my clients quiet time. So a quiet time can be, sipping tea, walking the dog, as long as he or she is not too distracting, walking in nature, really anything that is going to quiet the mind. So I really appreciate you saying that, Brenda, because not everyone can quote meditate, and that's fine. But the name of the game is quiet the mind so you can hear the still small voice, so that you can connect and talk to it.
Right. And I mean, even like exercise, right? Well, nobody can go to the gym right now, or I guess you can in some places, but do you want to? But, it's like in any type of exercise, riding a bike, that kind of thing, as long as it's like somewhere where you don't have to like stop and start and pay attention to traffic type thing. Again, those types of things, they call them walking meditations or movement meditations. We have to start where we can, because I think that then people don't do it at all. Right? Because if they think they have to light candles, put on music, lower the lights, sit on a pillow, it's not going to happen. So you have to figure out, like, what does that look like for me?
Yes.
So, Debra, what do you find that your clients are struggling the most with right now?
Well, we've talked.
Or always? Say hasn't
Yes.
really changed, right?
Well, we've talked, some about it. That is that there's self-doubt, and I know that you said doubts are okay, but doubts are okay if you're in evolved state, that you can look at the doubts. So there's the self-doubt and the questioning of themselves, and particularly the questioning of their choices and decisions. So that's one. And then we also mentioned overwhelm. I can't tell you how many women I work with who just are paralyzed because they have so much on their to-do list. And when you get overwhelmed and paralyzed, then you don't do anything. Then you don't do the top three. Then you're just, I don't know what to do, so I'm gonna go to, used to go to the movies. You can't go to the movies anymore, but I'm gonna go and take myself on a long hike, which may clear their mind, so that may not be so bad. But the issue is the not doing anything that is going to forward the action to your goals.
And I feel like, Debra, this is such a great point. For most people, and this is my experience as well with clients, is that everybody wants to know the whole plan, like from beginning to end. And sometimes all we need to do is just take the next step. And so I think organization, I'm one of those, and I don't know how Debra is, but I think because of how my mind operates and just who I am, I have to have an organized, clear space that I work in, that I live in. It's just who I am. Not everybody's like that, and I get it, but I have to have it for me. But the thing is that sometimes, because I have this rich, full business and life, that it maybe something gets a little out of, little disorganized, but it's just taking it. So, people will look at like, oh, I need to, or reorganize everything. Well, okay, start with a drawer. Start with a shelf. Start with, a category in your closet, like, the pants or something. It's, I mean, it doesn't have to be everything.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be all, and we don't have to know, like, again, it even like in our businesses, okay, I want to do this, but we just need to take the next step.
Yeah, I love that about the next step, because I usually I end every coaching session with, so what is the next baby step? That we're going to move towards whatever it is that we talked about. And the other thing I want to say is, my belief is that it's an elegant design of the universe not to give you the whole picture, because it may distract you. You may think, oh, that's not possible. You know, all kinds of stuff may happen. So it's like, I see it as like the universe spoon feeding us
And
and,
protecting us from ourselves. Yeah.
totally protecting ourselves from ourselves. And so the other thing that that I want to, that's related to this, that I think is very powerful, is that I always say our job is to figure out the what, and it's the universe's job to figure out the how. And so how you know the how is to connect to your intuition, going back full circle to intuition and guidance, and then listen, what are the 3 steps today to take to get to the what. So most people, I find, have it backwards, which is they have to figure out the how before they're willing to state the what. And it's the exact opposite of my belief of how things happen.
Well, she's been doing this a while, folks. So I'm going to tell you, ding, ding, ding. She's right on the money here. And it is. I work with enough people and you see a pattern. And what she's talking about is like so true, and what happens. And, and I always say too, the universe loves action and will support it. And so we take the next little step and the universe is like, oh, let me take care of the next 3 for you, right? It happens that way. But most of us don't get to experience that because we're not willing to take the first step. And it's always so magical and beautiful what unfolds and how it's like, I always say the anticipation is always way worse than the actual event. And we're like, why didn't I do this? Like, why didn't I have a VA? Why didn't I do this a long time ago? Because it was just so much easier. And it wasn't as bad as I thought it would be. And oh my gosh, and look at all of what's happened. Because the universe, is conspiring to, just like when, and I'm sure that Debra has seen this, I see this all the time, because I work with people to shatter their income ceiling. It's my favorite thing. I love for people to make money. I always say money's not the most important thing, but it touches everything that is. So I want to support people in that. I want to support people in their freedom. I want to support people in their joy, like what we're talking about, to get beyond the chaos. But also too, what happens a lot is that people will just say yes, right? Like they'll say yes, they'll pay for it. And literally just my newest client was like, it was so amazing, Brenda. Like we said yes, we paid for it. And then all of a sudden, all of these like past due invoices, we were getting checks in the mail. She goes, we literally paid for you in a week. She goes, but again, because the universe wants to support us. So when we take action, when we say yes, it's like, okay, let's go.
Yeah, I love that. And it is, the other thing that I say, besides the universe likes action, the universe likes commitment. And the commitment is sealed by the action.
But that stake in the ground, exactly.
Absolutely.
Because that's the deal. And that's the big thing that I often see too, Debra, is that, people are always like, oh, the law of attraction doesn't work for me, or I don't get like what I asked for. But it's like, well, one, did you ask for it? And then 2, were you clear on what you were asking for? right? So putting that stake in the ground, making that commitment is being clear, being intentional. So that like, okay, like if I were, from a foreign country, could I understand what you were saying and what you want? That's what being clear, intentional allows that to happen. So gosh, yeah, absolutely. So Deborah, what would you like our audience to remember about this like amazing chat that I hope you guys are sharing and that you will share and tag with people? Because this was good.
Thank you. I thoroughly enjoyed it. So I would, there's so many things I would pull out and have pulled out, but I would leave the audience with that there's never any challenge or issue too big to resolve. Because my belief, again, we've been talking about the universe. I believe that the universe would not present us with a challenge, big or small, that it didn't already know that we were capable of handling. And you can, take that from the smallest thing in your life to the COVID experience now. That, we as a species are able to handle this, and that's why it's happening now. And so I believe that with all my heart and soul, and it keeps me balanced to believe that.
Well, and the thing is that, what I would tell people, like, go read Think and Grow Rich. Uh, you know, uh, Written during the Depression, written because people had just gone through, the first major depression that, on the books in the 30s for us, and that everybody was talking about and was really turned, turned us upside down here in the US, and really just the gems that are from that. And it's kind of, I have a readers club, and a year ago, I was like, okay, the next book that we'll do after Think and Grow Rich is we're going to do Outwitting the Devil. It's so relevant right now with so much stuff that's being written that he wrote in the 30s. But I don't know if y'all know about Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill. His wife was like, oh no, you're having a conversation with the devil. No, you're not printing this. People are going to think you're crazy. And so he had to wait until after she died, and then they printed it. It's been out for probably about 10 years now. So it's just really, and so you have to think like in the context of like, this was written in the 30s, and this is so relevant now. And especially like, I had no idea what was going to be going on in the world when we started this book. No idea. Right. But I knew in my knowing that that would be the next book that I would do. And again, so all of those are just really good because it makes us aware of like, where do I want my mindset to be? How do I want to direct my mind? Who do I want to associate with? Like, so who are you hanging out with right now? And when I mean, I'm talking about virtually, because most of us are hanging out virtually with people, not in person. And what are we allowing to say, this is what I want my reality to be? Because it's so important to shift that and reframe it. And, when you read like a book like Think and Grow Rich, and what I know is, because again, I've been doing this a couple of years, and I know that Debra will agree with me, is that at the end of a recession, it's always so much more than we could imagine. And it's always so much better. And I know that in my heart of hearts, that although I don't like, that people have, are suffering, physically, and that some people have passed away. And again, yes, that is very sad. But I know that at the end of this, we're going to look back on this, and we're going to be able to see like all the good that's come as a result of it. Just like, again, and also dealing with Black Lives Matter, and when I mean dealing, like, and us having this awareness, and people changing how they approach things, and people using their voices in order to make a difference. Yes, it's unfortunate that we're having to look at all of this right now, but what a gift. And if we really are in our awareness and in our intuition, it can unfold differently for all of us and be so much better in the long run. And I feel like that as humanity, Deborah, and what we're looking at is that we're seeing that people are more aware, and people are more intentional, and people want to be if they're not. So that's a beautiful place for us all to be in. But we can't be in that if we're doubting, if we're in fear, if we're in overwhelm, if we're, uh, not wanting to just have the top 3 things on our list and be in touch with our intuition and doing that. These are all of these gems that Debra have given us throughout this whole time have been tools and ways to approach things in order for our lives to be in a better place. And also, I would read her book, right? So we're going to talk about that here in just a few minutes, but we're going to do some work here, right? So we can shift some things. I often say, so once again, for those of you, who do not know who I am, I'm Brenda B. Bailey. I am a ThetaHealing master. I was one of the first 9 in the world. I've been doing this for 14 years, and I also teach the technique. So I have 13 different certifications in integrative healing, but ThetaHealing is the one that I'm one of those that I like for it to be quick, easy, and permanent. So love ThetaHealing for that reason, which is why I chose to teach it, because I just felt like everybody ought to know how to do this if they want to. And it goes beyond the subconscious mind. It goes beyond the brain, which is what's important, because as we've kind of been insinuating, or it's our minds that slow things down. It's our brains. That's where the doubt comes in. When we stay in our knowing, no doubt, right? When we stay in our head, lots of doubt, lots of fear, lots of overthinking, lots of monkey mind. So we want to, that's the beautiful thing about ThetaHealing, is it overrides that, because the brain limits us. It's just plain and simple does. So when we can make changes at the cellular level, then our brain, our mind, our emotions can just follow. So it makes it super easy. So whenever I work with a new client or a new student, I always make sure that they have 3 beliefs in place. So the cool thing is this is a very complementary modality, but it's also very respectful. So you have to say yes out loud. So Debra's going to cue us in on when to say yes. So she's going to participate here, but we always have to say yes. Like, so if I'll say, would you like that? Then we have to say yes out loud, and understand that even if you're watching the replay, just say yes out loud. You get the work. That's the cool thing about this. So the 3 beliefs that I always make sure that we have in place are: I want an instant healing, I deserve an instant healing, and an instant healing is possible. So if you'd like those, just say yes out loud.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Because what I find is that what we're doing is going to be working very quickly, if you'd like for it to. And if those 3 beliefs aren't in place, it slows everything down. No bueno. I want it to go ahead and be. If you want it, you got it. Let's do it. So there were a couple of things that were said, and I just really thought, let's go ahead and change this. So one, I always make sure that we have that divine definition. So I feel like that so we're in alignment with it. We know what it feels like, that it's possible, that it's safe, how it serves us. And what I find ends up happening is that people don't know the difference between asking questions and questioning. Because questioning comes with judgment, right? Asking questions. So being an inquiry, asking questions is different. That's looking for an answer. And
Yes.
so we want to be able to, but a lot of us, because of how we were raised or for whatever reason, right, we are questioning, and that doesn't serve us. So we want to be able to have the inquiry, to be able to ask the questions in order to get the answer. So we want to, one, get the definitions of question, questioning, inquiry, so that we can understand like what we want to do. Like, because if we know what it feels like, then we can do it. We can shorten that learning curve. We don't have to go through a training for it or anything like that. We can just be in the beauty of who we are and in our knowing and do it. And so we want to change what obligates us. So that means no choice. Again, you want to be questioning, have at it. but we want to give you a choice. Sometimes an obligation means no choice. So we want to change if we have an I'm obligated to be questioning. We want to change that. We also want to change what prevents us from asking questions to get answers, right? We want to change what prevents us from being inquiry for our highest and best good. So if you would like that, just say yes out loud.
Yes.
And then let's look at doubt, right? So that we can utilize doubt in the way that it serves us to be able to be productive or, out of the fear. So we want to get that divine definition of doubt. We also want to get, we want to change the obligation to have self-doubt, right? Because then again, we're blocking getting the answers from our intuition, from that little voice. Because doubt comes from our mind, right? So it blocks it. And then also we want to change what prevents us from utilizing doubt for our highest and best good, right? So we can reframe it and be able to utilize it like, oh, I need to pay attention, or, oh, that's just a fear, right? Cancel and send that to, I believe in God, so I'll just say cancel and send it to God's light, right? That's not, again, if it comes again, then I'm like, maybe I need to work on something, right? But sometimes it's just a habit of us being, of being negative, of doubting, right? So if you'd like to change that, just say yes out loud.
Yes.
And I feel like when we have been raised in when we have a chaotic childhood, sometimes we just know what we know and we don't know what we don't know. And it's where we have a saying here in Texas, shit stinks, but it's warm. And so we do what we know. And so chaos and overwhelm are typically what people know. It's where they're comfortable. They may not like it, but it's where they're comfortable. It's what they know. Like, what does peace and serenity feel like? Well, I don't know that, right? For some people, or I don't know what it feels like to be able to handle, like to be good with where everything is and not feel like, it's overtaking me, right? So we want to we want to change like what obligates us to be in chaos. We want to change because again, it's a choice. So if we want to have chaos, we can, but we want to change if we're obligated, like if we don't have a choice, we want to change that. And we also want to change what obligates us to be overwhelmed. So we can just open up it, make it a choice. Like, do I want to be overwhelmed or not? And we also want to change what prevents us from doing it differently. Right? So we can have a choice, but let's just not do it at all. Right? If it's not serving us. And I just don't see where either one of them serve us. So, let's shift it. So if you'd like that, just say yes.
Yes.
Nice. So I feel like is there anything else, Debra, that you think that we ought to shift or?
I think you completely covered it. You tuned right in, and speaking of using your intuition, you tuned right in and caught what I would have said. Yes, absolutely.
Yay. Well, Great minds think alike. We'll just put it at that. So Deborah, tell people how, like, what you want them to know, how they can get a hold of you. And keep in mind, guys, we're going to put these in the comments below, but I want you to hear it as well, right?
Okay, so I have a gift for the audience, for those of you who want to take me up on it, and that is a 90-minute free masterclass on the 7 magical qualities on the journey to joy. So it's a further a further exploration of what we talked about here. So again, it's called the 7 magical qualities on the journey to joy, and how you can claim the free gift is 3 ways. You can either private message me, which is Debra Valentina, with your email, and I'll send you the details. Or you can also sign up via either one of my websites. And so they are, first one is creativing.info, and that's creativing, creativing.info. And the second one is really easy to remember. It's the name of my book. It's beyondchaosbook.com. Again, beyondchaosbook.com. And I hope you take me up on my gift.
Who couldn't use a little joy, right? So that's great. Thank you so much, Deborah. And you know what I like to do as well, like, so if you thought Theta Healing was kind of cool and you'd like to know more about classes, I'll put a link below to notify you, because for the first time in 20 years, we're allowed to teach virtually. And that's exciting. I love Zoom. So I'm all about that. So I think that that's great. So, and you can become a certified practitioner. It's a very complementary modality. I think that I always say that I think every parent ought to know it. It's the one thing that I always said, but I just feel like that any coach, anybody to be able to utilize it, I can show you how to utilize it in any work that you do, because it's just, but also in your life, because as entrepreneurs, we are a business. So what we come up against in our businesses are typically what we're coming up against in our lives. And so whichever way we approach it, it's all good. It just spreads its little sunshine all over in that shifting. I also have a 1-minute abundance meditation. I say it's purely intentional. So if abundance is not like the flavor of the week that you want, or what's top for you, put what is your intention and listen to it. 1 minute. It's 1 minute. First thing in the morning, last thing in the evening. I'm telling you, I hear from people all the time. Do it for 30 days. It will change your life. Because again, you don't have to spend a lot of time. You just got to do it in a way that's most effective. And that's the big thing as well. And also, if you want to talk to me about Theta Healing classes, how cool Debra is, feel free at chatwithbrendab.com, and feel free to contact me. Anything else, Deborah? Any last little things?
I was just going to say, this is totally delightful. So I hope that the audience, is as delighted as it has been for me.
Having a great time. We've had a great time. Let's just say that. Absolutely. And again, please share it, tag people, share it in a group. If you feel like that this will serve anybody that you know, or any organization that you are in, or however that works, it's all great. Lots of work, WOWs, I always say, words of wisdom, and some work to boot to shift it, because that's my big thing. Let's not just make you aware of it. Let's shift some things. So that's what we've did. So thank you so much for joining us. Next week, same time, same place. And let me, get myself back into, I'm actually going to be having Lauren Kane, and we're going to be doing work around the critical shifts to make so that you and others will acknowledge your value and expertise. And what Lauren does is she helps people get funding with investors for their businesses. So I think, everybody is so aware of this after watching like Shark Tank and that kind of thing. So we're going to do some work around that and hear a lot, because she's been doing this for a long time. So there'll be a lot of, SBA and PPP are not the only ways to go, even though those are lovely opportunities that are happening right now, but we've always had these opportunities. So we're going to just make people aware of it. So Deborah, thank you once again.
You're most welcome. You're most welcome.
It's been a delight.